Narrator: if you look from the past video, the writer did not put the epilogue that is usually applied on most chapters. This is because the epilogue will be explained after the intro for this one, as it was necessary to split each chapter in half chapters. I will also extend the time between each story that I have on both channels so it does not replace the content but acts like every 2 week or month situation. So as we begin the story, I will bring it back to the narrator. Narrator: let the story begin. Germany: alright man, mostly sitting around alright playing with the story. Wonder about this next mission though. The guy is relatively okay. I get the SCP Foundation doesn't like his organization, but they're not really threat. Okay, I'm going to just do mind communication. Narrator: mind communication is one of a future language used by of the day to communicate feelings and information faster than normal language can. Only be the biggest language in the 2200s, as it's very efficient, as you can instantly communicate your thoughts completely and uniquely through pure information, and the person can completely and truly understand you. It's hard to describe communication through mind link through neural chips. It will be translated into the closest point of English. Germany: so you get that the fact that I have all these choices, but I want to say, what is the best gameplay? Should I do capture him or fail? Mark: it's obviously let go. Fail. Here's the entire history of this type of trope. It would be great story potential. Germany: but yeah, what is it in for me? Mark: again, you're being thick-headed. Germany: okay, you did have insult me 1,000 ways. Mark: I know you, but it is failing to capture him, which will be more activities in the future. It likely this destabilize the story that you're trying to construct. Germany: okay, I got it. Bye. Mark: of course, bye. Narrator: that's not exactly how it went down, but the conversation roughly give the same idea regarding the entire lecture of tropes, insults, and understanding it will probably mess with the whole be a story character, because what will happen is that you use things outside of the characters and knowledge to win, which will break the story immersion, and he wants that. So he agrees and says bye, but in the brain message way well to the story. Germany: well, the process of finding out? Narrator: we skip to the event. It's a gather for which European elite, several of them in anomalous dealings. They have a tracker that him by his DNA comes up to them, not realizing that they're Foundation, and this happens. The scientist: hello dear, I haven't seen you in circles ever. I just want to know where you're exactly from. Narrator: he says a made-up Foundation backstory, and then he realizes it from the Foundation and runs activate. A device does similar to SCP-184. The architect massively expanding the castle into countless different anomalous areas, and continuing at a rapid pace in the activation. They both fall down a shaft as the building rumbles continues to expand. They are continuously falling down until they eventually meet their potential death spot. Germany: I got a plan, hold on to me. Narrator: he takes pill and goes into a wall, as it was an anonymous substance that he cured just in case or something like this would happen, knocking him into a giant room that has an altered version of the original waterfall section of the palace, where they had a large 7-foot waterfall of wine. Now this waterfall is made out of blood. There's weird life. Mary: this is strange. Oh shit. Germany: what happened? Mary: I don't know, my finger is starting to expand. Narrator: the finger explodes, causing a painful burst of pain. She just got bitten by the blood bird, a bird that is numberless in nature. It would be contained as an unknown SCP for the Foundation. Enormous effect is when the blood bird bites, it causes the affected part to explode. They can use it as a defense mechanism to scare off predators, and usually when you see one blood bird is usually 10 others, as they usually go into a pack of almost a dozen if not dozens, and unlucky for them, there's 3 dozen birds behind them. Germany: oh fuck, that's allowed birds? Narrator: he goes and kill all of the birds, which dive down at super fast speed to his partner, because they have anonymous intelligence as a group, and are able to send things to the telepathically realize by a secret bite on his leg that they can't bite into him in the email. Attack the partner for a prey. Oh yeah, I forgot they also use it to hunt. They prey by eating the explode remains with super strength, and obviously he will stand on lock and kills all of the birds, but then he also find more anonymous wildlife as they walk through and out of the room into a mutated humanoid creature called Adan. Adan species is highly anonymous, and it was used as a slave servant species in the castle thanks to the effect of the artifact. It has mutated them into a far stronger version of them, and has multiplied them from 24 in the castle to 82, and they currently have 12 of them on their back. Their pupils are hazardous, and causes people to have a partial memory loss, and maybe temporary or permanent insanity for individuals that have weak or mental will or bodies. For him, he sees it by effects. He realizes to shield himself from seeing the anonymous creatures, though it's relatively easy for him as he activates his high-level speed and throws high-speed rock tiles away. The creatures are bulletproof, but the speed which that things are getting thrown at is a third of the speed of light. It causes massive destruction. Luckily, he used his speed to also protect marriage from the effects. More and more like this have anonymous creatures and animals kept as pets, and true stuff mutated with the rooms to become strange, and stranger to the cement. The creatures being some very strange being like a mix between a horse camel and hyena, licking the ground, but he had extreme fear that he doesn't know why. But he decides to carefully hide and leave from their attention. Luckily for him that's a good idea as they are extremely powerful. Powerful enough that they could seriously damage, or kill him as they've been infused with the god of the essence of Marshall Carter, and Dark Serum currently, though he does have to hide and make sure they don't interact beings until they die, though they would help create through their deaths later the SCP-2845 the deer. As he leaves, he eventually goes and figures out where the device is. It's in a highly complex diamond labyrinth. In the center of all of this mess they find it and crush it, escaping. But the scientist has escaped. He gets reprimanded by the 05 Council, does a lot of grunt work for a few years. Narrator: this is going to be a little side story that a writer is going to say himself. Well, hi. It's just going to be a slight new story where he goes and reaches Sarkit cult. His first job, after the few years of manual work and slaughtering, was to work for the 05 Council and killing a major cult in Austria. He did, and it was a solo mission. Though the real funny thing is that he can't manipulate it, by which who was able to send him into falling into a pit of flesh that constantly consumed him. This embarrassing moment was so remotely by the Foundation, which would laugh about it as a joke. He obviously escaped using his power, and killed the witch, and defeated the infection, lower the defenses, and the Foundation firebomb it into oblivion. But that was a funny little story of how he got induced by a shockage, which was found incredibly funny by Foundation. Oh yeah. And in the 1920 stock crash, he lost most of his savings, $20,000 in 1920 money, which would be $323,976 worth in today's money. The development of his fully finishes as he finishes his 5-year backstory. Throughout the entire development point of this he is extremely exhausted playing as ANSYPE researcher, and the storyline point was a lot, but now he is completely free from role-playing in the backstory. He's currently a researcher in Site-19 facility, and to continue the story I will give it to the narrator. The narrator I'm is here to give you exposition, and this is here for a bare minimum recap of some facts, knowing that some people haven't read the first chapters or early stories. This is a simple recap part. Explain: originally it was on the main channel of the writer where he would create a futurism story, a humanity in the future. He has currently finished chapter 4, and out of the first stories 4 of them were to be created. Then Els decided to make a spin-off for the second channel of a character within that universe playing a virtual reality game of SCPS, with 4 paths: the path of the war, the path of the fighter, the path of the mage, and the path of the researcher. In order it was warrior, researcher, mage, and fighter. Currently the path of the warrior, or he has episodes out though combined into compilation if the first chapters of the research. 2. To give it easier connection it's called the dump load, as it loads all the stories of these spin-offs mostly together except for the first chapter of the path of the warrior. With this recap of all this information you get a comprehensive idea of what is the story. Another need of information is that the writer and narrator personals fundamentally different. This means the narrator is not absolute in information but is completely out of the story preview, or the writer is the absolute meta, where it's effectively directly inferring what the writer would want to say. Is a kind of example scenario. The narrator has a different personality, and it's kind of its own character, doesn't interact with the story at all. Even with this franchise is completely separate with its kind of personality, while the regular videos the writer personality is different. This is a full recap and explanation. Now let's go to the story. Jeremy, after the 5-year experience as a researcher in Site-19, he had Blast SCP-999 and SCP-387. He does have a very fun time with each anomaly explanation as a high-level researcher, and also severely depressed or monotone most of the time. He's able to get a lot of access to anomalies, but the main place he works is in his lab, where he mostly is working on the advanced reality Tech help the Foundation against reality alterations. He is developing a new kind of Scranton reality anchors that are smaller, wearable, and if potentially creatable can revolution containing anomalies using the advantage being able have the power of square into reality anchor in your back pocket. Currently he is an SCP-10600 fan, the number and the fan word is so this is particularly in the universe of what the video game is and isn't an actual SCP. It's a fake fan SCP, but in this anomaly it's a door where you can experiment in an isolated dimension expanded for experiments that require a lot of resources. An important invest but is too dangerous to put out in open, so in this situation they can get support of Site-19's large level of reinforcements, and are also able to efficiently seal any collateral damage that is caused by experiments. Currently he's experimenting on an unknown wiring line for a machine that is compressed to the size of a pen. It explodes, causing a reality-altering shock that has only stopped by the dimension's effects. He survives most of the equipment within the dimension even miles away from point because the dimension is near infinite in size, if the dimension size being 10 to the power of 10 to the power of 10 to the power of 10 being so large it's nearly impossible test to calculate. Imagine is important to resource for the Foundation as they can hold some of the most expensive and dangerous experiments within this place and alter its physics and rules to stop anything from coming out. After test 567 he left the containment area to lunch. A junior researcher assigned his personal assistant and partner to help me research and studies. He finds out the Foundation has assigned him partner to help him accelerate in his studies and also cultivate his power. They both shake hands as they both greet each other. Her name is Miranda. A little bit of a break just to tell you that I changed devices which has altered the punctuation of sentences which you may have noticed in the start of the chapter, but it will be reversed back to previous chapters process now. He also finds out the Foundation wants him to explore a new potential anomaly. It hasn't been assigned a Foundation number, and it is called Flesh Hole. It's a hole made out of identified material. Anything that goes down slowly dissolved by stronger and stronger acid. They wanted to see what is in the bottom, because it has consumed entire school at the bottom. His purpose didn't get out. Find out? Why did it become like this? And get out. He travels to the isolated town that has been evacuated after the school has been consumed. Foundation has observing the hole has been increasing our rate of 1 centimeter per day, and doubles its speed every year by their calculations. It will be uncontainable in a decade. He goes in it and for about 8 hours he goes through the entire digestive tract, and melt him down, until it's basically a slurry. Survive fruit and regenerate exact replica. At school he found videotapes through a kid called Garber, his kid bullied for being extremely weak. He had a disability and slowly starve his body from nutrients and yourself. It made his body underdeveloped compared to most other kids, and really couldn't do much. He eventually was able to do a miracle. He was able to walk, but that still left him bullied. That's until he discovered a secret thing from the darkest pits of his family, and he awakened his power. He could steal the power of others through consumption of the flesh. It's eventually consumed them though, as he was able to get away with the murders, but his mental state declined further and further until he reverted into this. And then for the last he find out the characters inside the tape can watch him. The other kid starts to panic as the main kid goes and look directly at the camera and say leave. He got spit out after that, and he got a full retold of the kid's backstory for breaking every bone in his body escaping out of that pocket dimension. The Foundation figure out the exact thing from his retelling of the story. They use that thing to destroy a hole and free the souls from their internal suffering. After this a time skip of 3 years, technically more than 3 years, but I'm going too far. The main character Germany came up, smiling as Miranda was talking to the other researchers. He remembered that this timeline is actually a complete alteration, and he kept the memories of this timeline. It was about here after the previous event I told they were stuck in apocalypse. A very powerful SCP breached and destroyed the SCP Foundation. Anonymous groups was able to destroy the anomaly but caused the XK class in the area with anomalous nuclear material covered Earth into a dry radioactive hellscape, whereas the pockets of space of safety and his group of survivors were one of the last survivors left. His camp died and got destroyed by SCP 4715 and 120 instances of SCP-939, and anonymous animals weren't SCPs. He escaped with only Miranda and a bunch of children from the camp. The most died through the trip except for him and Miranda. Things see the danger. Anonymous wildlife eventually through the actions of others. The Earth was restored with life after 7 years of apocalypse. He went to SCP-2000, activated it to prepare another apocalypse. He boosted himself with power and decided to only do a partial memory wipe of this apocalypse because it happens usually multiple times a week, but usually reality resets or memories get wiped to have a continuous timeline. Decided to keep the memory of this event partially. He gained the ability to have a barrier that he can activate on. Well, this barrier is possibly strong and has the ability to resist basically any non-anonymous physical force. That's literally a black hole. Every non-anonymous physical force is nothing to the barrier. It extends about 3 meters at max around his body, and he can mentally filter anything within the barrier he wants to block or enter. He can't do it forever because he has extreme discomfort after a long while, but he can do it for days and any meaningful amount of time. You can also fly at around 15 times the speed of sound, about 11,500 miles per hour, and because in remembrance of perspective, it's a game. There are stuff secret that even he doesn't know he has, like a secret pocket dimension that hosts a minor god that he can pull in if he's in true dire need. His abilities have massively increased as he also has made implants that are in his body into a kind of anonymous material that can more smoothly interface with its flesh, and also that you can go through metal detectors without charging, and it regenerates with him as it encoded to his very DNA. His ability now, he can ram things up to 15 times the speed of sound when he's flying, which he now nearly always does because flying doesn't take any energy out of him. He can do it unconsciously, and so now he flies about at the minimum 1 millimeter above the ground to keep his speed, as he can react and also not react and do a lot of things when he's at his fly mode. The exception when he does not use ability is when he sleep. So as he looks at Miranda, he remembers the entire point of until he got his mirror wiped, which was when he said he wouldn't get his memory wiped. That's kind of funny.